Well, I want to change gears and go a slightly different direction. You and I have something very interesting in common that I did not know until I researched you. Now, I do many things like you do, but I've only ever had debilitating stage fright in one of them, and that's piano playing. It's taken me my whole life to overcome debilitating. Like, I can play the piano, but when I play in front of you, I can't play the piano. And for you, that was the violin.
Oh my
And
God.
I want you to talk about how fiddling took you through that.
Ugh. Um, well, when I started the project, the music project in LA, and I was working with Richard Green, so I was classically trained as a violinist, so I could play anything pretty much. Certainly anything that would, be within the realm of what's considered fiddling, because it's just like you're not going to be up in fifth position, playing some really, really hard technical thing.
Right.
So Richard Green and I would create these fiddle solos for the songs that I was writing. And I would practice them and practice them and practice them. And then when I started going out and playing, well, two things were going on. When it was time for the fiddle solos, I was terrified. I was terrified. Like every playing for chairs moment from my childhood would just like smack me in the face. And it was all I could do to just try to get through the fiddle solo without totally falling apart. And I totally fell apart a lot. So, plus, this was the time when I had musicians, for the most part, when I had musicians in my band who did not know the songs. So, I mean, I could pretty much sing through a hurricane. Like, it didn't matter
Yeah.
what was happening, I could keep singing the song. But when it came to the fiddle parts, I was not strong. I was terrified. So the band being kind of wonky and not always playing the right chords did not help. So that's where I started with it. And there were many, many moments on stage when it all fell apart. It was not pretty.
Yeah.
It's a learning curve for sure. And so Luke joined the band. And some of these moments were still happening, these just like falling apart moments. And he also plays the fiddle. He plays the fiddle, the mandolin, and the guitar, and now the banjo as well. Um, and he was sort of observing this from his perspective, and he was so confused because he would hear me practicing, he would hear me in rehearsal, and I was good. I had it down. I could totally play it. It was no problem. But then in performance, things would just fall apart. So he also helped me to get through that because he was just very supportive about it. For one thing, that's one of the reasons he suggested we start meeting every day and really practice the songs,
Mm.
because he recognized that the band didn't know the songs and he was playing mandolin. So he couldn't really do anything about, the chord players not playing the right chords.
Right.
So I think he even said to the band, come on, guys, at least learn the songs. You got to support her. Like, this is not fair. Um, and then we started rehearsing and, just doing it more and more and more. I just worked my way through it. It took, um, I mean, I think a year of like working with Luke and a lot of repetition and a lot of pretty low bar gigs, Barnes and Nobles and random back rooms of bars where they're playing football or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, I got there. I got there. I didn't stop. I didn't stop being nervous for years. I could play. I could get through the parts. It's literally taken, so I don't even know how many years it's taken to get to the point where I can screw up and it doesn't faze me and I
Yeah.
can just keep going. Like, it's years. So
I
yeah.
understand. I
Whew.
understand. I understand.
Yeah, it's like you get tied up in knots and you can't function.
Yeah.
It's a thing.
It's a thing. Absolutely. It's a thing that
Yeah.
keeps people from even trying, but you worked through it. I assume you don't have that with anything else, or do
I
you?
don't think so. I don't
Yeah.
think so. I mean, this new project, I am intending to bring to the live show, which does not yet exist. Um, I'm intending to bring dancing, maybe even doing a little aerial, probably whatever I will do will be, pretty much easy person aerial because I can't really do it anymore. But um, I haven't tried dancing and singing. I've started practicing the songs. I don't think I'll be nervous like I was with the fiddle, but it's a whole new bar in terms of skills I don't yet have. Like I've started singing the songs. First of all, the songs are hard. I've written a bunch of pop songs. So like I've been singing folk for 15 years.
Yeah,
I gotta sing pop songs.
right.
And I gotta be able to basically be in an aerobic exercising state and do it. So I'm far away from that bar right now, but I'm working on it.
Yeah, yeah. But the difference is you know what work you have to do and you're working on it.
Yeah, I'm working on it. And
Yeah.
I don't think I'm gonna be terrified, but I don't know.
Yeah. Well,
I'll find out when I get there.
we'll circle back and check in with you.
Yeah.
I want to talk about a couple of songs that I listened to of yours that I really liked. And one of them is Flowers and Stone. And I was curious, and maybe this has to do with your trapeze background, but why the interest in Hugo, Oklahoma, where circuses have wintered since 1940? What's the interest there?
Well, we just got hired to play a show there. We got there was an art center. I don't know if it's still there, but the Choctaw Art Center hired
Mhm.
us to come play a show. So we went. That's how that works. That's how I've ended up in a lot of small towns. And I'm a curious person, so we got there, and I saw the sign, the welcome sign, which said Circus City, USA. I had this trapeze background, so I was curious. So I started asking around, and the woman who ran the B&B where we were staying was my informant. She said that the circus was not in town at that time. And I said, well, what else is there to do in town? Because, we had time to kill. And she guided me to the cemetery. So I went to the cemetery and walked around, and there's this section in the cemetery, which is what the song is about, which is it was purchased by one of the circus managers. I don't know how many years ago, many, many years ago. And it's dedicated solely to circus performers because they're gypsies. They don't necessarily have homes to go to where they when they pass on. They don't necessarily have anywhere to go. So he purchased this whole section. It's called Showman's Rest, and yeah, it's a real story. I wandered around that cemetery, and I just felt so. On the one hand, it was so beautiful to see like just the dedication and the art and these I know these people, like these are my people. And to see all the sort of creative inscriptions and old photographs and but then to also see this is where we all will end, like this is this is how it goes.
Yeah.
So there was this bittersweet feeling as I walked around, and I just it was tugging on my heart. I wanted to write a song about it. So that's what Flowers and Stone is.
Neat. Well, what about It All Comes Back to Love? That one really stuck out for me as well.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's an older one for sure. Um, so when I started writing songs and I started this project I mentioned, it was sort of my own healing process. I'd been through some pretty not fun experiences at the end of my time working in the music business and trying to be an actress. And so I started reading a lot of spiritual books. I started really, I mean, I'd always been a seeker, but as it goes with us humans, when we're in a lot of pain, we put more focus on the seeking. So I had been putting a lot of focus on it. So I was really, really delving into the we are all one, and that ultimately what we are is an expression of the divine. We're all extensions of the divine. And that energy to me at the time, I don't know that I would define it quite the same way now, but at the time I was defining it as love, that's love energy. God energy is love energy. And so that's what that song is about, is that ultimately, no matter what happens, no matter how it goes, um, the truth of us is love, even if we can't see it in this physical manifestation. So that's what that song is about.
Wow. So here we are. Um, Before we talk about your project once more, because it's a fascinating idea, this explosion of your return to so many things. When I started to see you again on Facebook and I started to see you and your partnership, the thing that I was struck by was that you've worked harder than almost anyone I know to create a powerful professional presentation. Like your presentation was pristine. Like, this is who we are. This is what we do. I want to know if that was conscious on your part, that you were really trying. I mean, you were like, when you see us, you're going to know who we are and what we do. Uh, and if it was intentional, what are the rewards of doing that kind of thing? And what, if any, price do you pay for doing that sort of thing?
I think you're talking about marketing.
I am really, because there's this weird thing where you have to be natural, you have to be yourself. People have to want to be with you, but you can't really be yourself because real people scratch their armpits and things like that. So you have to create a natural product. And it occurred to me as I was looking at your product just how hard you'd worked to craft that. And I want to get your perspective on that.
Well, thank you. It's nice to hear. Actually, I would say that with Bettman and Halpin, it was stumbling toward what marketing is. I never really understood it. Um, but I think I had a sense. I mean, I was very authentic with the music that I was writing, and it was sort of country folk and um, with these other influences. And that was pretty true to me in terms of how I liked to be in the world, how I liked to dress, more or less, all natural, very connected to nature, those sorts of things. So I was maybe just lucky in that I started out with a pretty good fit, and I learned as I went. And marketing has definitely been something that I've spent rather a lot of time learning about, because it's as soon as you try to become a professional, certainly a professional musician, and you want to try to earn a living, it's right there. It's like, okay, you have to have an EPK, you have electronic press kit, for those who may not know. Um, you have to have pictures, you have to have the music has to sound legit, like it has to sound like it competes with what everybody's hearing, on the radio or streaming or whatever. And so from the get-go, and I think also it's just part of my personality, is like I want to do things really well. Like I don't want to, I'm not interested in good enough. I'm interested in how good can I get it?
Yeah.
Like, is it absolutely the best that I can do given the tools that I have and where I am in my life right now? Like that was always my bar. That continues to be my bar. Is it the absolute best that I can do given who I am, where I am, and the resources that I have? So, yeah, so I learned a lot. I actually studied marketing to some extent, more so with this newer project. But once Bettman and Halpin was kind of up and running and it was a thing and we were starting to tour, one thing led to another. We got an opportunity to go to a conference which was putting us in front of art centers, which was a whole new level in terms of raising the bar, raising our packaging, our imaging, all of that, because people buy the impression that they get. Like that's what they're purchasing. Yeah, yes, they would come and hear, some of them would come and hear us showcase, and then they were even more interested. But um, some people, they're just looking at your materials, they're looking at your picture, they're looking at your banner, they're talking to you, they're listening to your music. So they're looking at your videos, which show little snippets of you performing live. So that stuff ends up being whether or not you get a job. So it's important that it looks professional.
How did you decide what to leave out? Because you can't put it all in there. That's the big challenge for me, anyway, as somebody that does many things. I want to have it all in there. But at least for this phase of your career, you had to decide this doesn't go in there? How did you decide what went in?
Well, do you mean as opposed to, you mean this new project where I'm really
Right.
wanting to embrace all of myself?
Exactly. For the new
All
project, you're just like, I'm tired of that. This is
right.
me. This is me. But prior to that, you were really crafting something that you wanted to sell,
Yeah.
and you had to decide what to leave out. How did you decide?
Well, honestly, I gave up aerial when I started doing music full time. Partly because like we talked about before, I had decided to truly focus and not try to do everything. So I gave up acting, I gave up aerial. I was working on being a better singer. I was working with this amazing voice teacher I've worked with for years out in LA. I still work with him when I can, but had to relearn how to sing actually. So I was learning how to sing the songs I was writing. I was learning how to fiddle. There was actually no part of me that wanted to bring dance into it or that wanted to like, I think it was as much as I could contain. Just fiddling and singing at the same time took me years to try to like play a rhythm on the fiddle and sing at the same time. That's been a long learning curve.
Mm,
That's hard. You have to split your brain. The people who like play the guitar and sing at the same time, I have so much more respect than I ever did. People who play the drums and sing, oh my gosh, it's hard. Piano, and sing. Like, do you play and sing at the same time,
yeah,
Adam?
I do.
Yeah. I mean, it's like you literally have to, one of them has to become purely a physical, like you don't have to think about it. And the other one you can invest your brain into, but you can't invest your brain in both of them at the same time. Like I still can't play a melody and sing a different melody. Like I can't do that.
Yeah.
But so I don't think it was an issue in terms of what do I choose to leave out because I think I was so challenged by just the basic of what I was trying to do, which was not fall apart on stage, play fiddle solos that were hard, sing these songs. And then I was trying to figure out, okay, how can this be a show? What am I talking about when it's in between the songs? Like, what am I saying to people? So those were the big, and then I started telling stories, which actually was great. It's one of the things people have loved the most about us is the stories that I tell. But like that was enough.
Yeah.
So I didn't have to leave anything out that I was like, oh shoot. It's like I was full.
That really does help me. It's a very good answer. I appreciate that. So the pandemic hits and then everything comes flooding back in. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. Well, I had like little niggling itches and I'd started writing songs that there was no space for in Bettman and Halpin. And actually, probably in 2017, maybe, I'm guessing, I had started, well, before that, I'd started writing some songs that were pop songs. And we would sometimes kind of play them live in their acoustic version in a show, but they always just felt like they didn't fit. And so I was sort of putting them into a folder and I was calling it the dance record. And so at one point, Luke and I were going to work on 3 records. We were going to work on this record that was going to really sort of pay homage to our roots, to the artists who inspired us, Vince Gill, Wynonna, Mary Chapin Carpenter. So like just really dig in and really let ourselves do the folky, fiddly thing. And then we had a second record that was inspired by my mom, which was my mom had been trying to get me to record Gershwin for ever.
Yeah.
And, she was getting older. And I thought, well, if I'm ever going to do this, I should do it. So that is what became Timeless. So that was the second record in the line. And then the third record was going to be the dance record. And I had these songs I was writing and I was putting them in that folder and I was not sure. And Luke and I would start trying to produce them every now and then. And we were feeling our limitations in terms of producing. Like we didn't know the skills of how to produce pop. So as it happened, we just released A Thousand Miles. A Thousand Miles is the really folky one that like really just let us play in the playground we were familiar with and had, you know, had the skills for. Um, and then we had started working on Timeless when the world shut down. And so that process, which was actually an incredible process. I mean, again, I'm so proud of that music. I love how it came together. So we were pushing ourselves. Like Luke was learning how to play all these jazz chords he'd never had to play, and I was allowing myself to sing easy because I'd been like writing these big anthemic, folky songs, but still like pushing myself vocally for years. And now I was doing this songbook material, and I was like, oh, well, I can get back to my legit roots. I can just really like nestle into this easier way of singing, let the microphone do its work. And that felt so good. Um, and so then, we finished that record. And by that time, the world had shut down. I had started doing whatever work I was doing on myself and realizing I wanted to do something beyond the scope of what we could do. So I started having hard conversations with Luke and saying, what would it be like if I did my own thing? Like, what would it be like if I didn't put all of my focus on Bettman and Halpin and trying to make that successful? And Luke is a great guy. And he was like, go for it. I'll support you in whatever way I can. I'll help you make the music if I can. Work with other people who know things I don't know. He was like, go, do it. Yes. So, full permission. So the dance record then became the
The
starting
starting.
point
Yeah, that's
for
nice.
what's coming. I mean, I've written so many, like that dance record. No, this is so many new songs. The last couple of songs have just been a fountain of creative stuff, which has been great.
Do you want to talk about them? Give us a sneak preview, or do you want us to just wait?
Well, Be Big is the first one coming out on March 8th. And it's pretty big. It's a big song. There's a lot of tracks going on. There's big, huge drums, and there's lots of stacked vocals, and it is the message of this whole project, which is part of the reason it's the first one out of the gate. I mean, there's a lot of messages, but just like full permission to just have a totally messy, doesn't fit in any boxes, creative explosion is like, yeah,
Well,
that's what that song, it's like, how big can you be? Like, why are you
after
keeping yourself small, trying to fit in?
because after what you've learned about marketing, you know that it can be useful to be small. What do you foresee is how do you are you just not going to worry about marketing this thing? What are you going to do? You're just going to be big and just
Um, well, I think the marketing's gonna work. I just think it's gonna work. Um, and it is big and bold. And I mean, I don't know if you've probably seen the current pictures. I'm like bright colors and like explosive laughter and
yeah.
just like big energy. Um, that's part of the marketing of this project. And actually, I'm for the first time in my life, I'm actually hiring marketing people to help me with this because
Ah.
that I can't do everything myself and do it well. So that's been fascinating. And what I have learned through working with professional marketers, go figure, is that at least in this context, the marketing is very much reflective of me. Like I am who I'm targeting in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So spiritual seeker, love to dance, love rhythms, genre bendy, um, uh, like those are all part of what this marketing is, explosive, joyful, unapologetic, powerful, feminine. Those are all what they call like pillars, I suppose is what they call them. Um, so, I don't know how this is going to go. That's another thing I've learned. Well, I'm not controlling any of this. Like Luke and I cannot even begin to count the number of times people would come up to us after a show and say, "Why aren't you famous?" And while that is a flattering thing for an audience member to say, it's also a little bit of it's also a little bit of what are you not doing that you should be doing that you're not famous? Um, so I know that I'm not controlling this. So yes, I'm doing this for whomever, but I'm doing it for me. That's part of the whole like, forget about trying to fit into a box. I don't fit into a box. This is my permission I've given myself total permission to just create what I want to create. And it's going to go how it goes.
And for someone that has spent their life controlling so many processes, this is a big step for you in a way, isn't it?
Well, um,
To let it go.
yeah, I can't say that I'm not still like quality control. I
But
am.
it's different. Of course, you're in control of the things that you can control. You're controlling the things that
Yeah.
you're responsible
Well,
for. But
and I've
there's
also learned to get good help,
Mhm.
that I shouldn't try to do everything myself. I think I was trying to just make money, and have it be a supporting venture with Bettman and Halpin. And so I tried to do everything myself, or I tried to do it, as cheaply as I could do it, and so that we'd still be making money. Which I was successful at. But this time I am like, I'm pulling out all the stops. Whatever I have to pay for, I'm gonna try to figure out how to afford to pay for real marketing help. And, I've got a couple of producers. Luke is one of them, but then I'm working with somebody else who's great at making pop music and funk music and rock and just like, so, and yeah, so how does it feel to let go of control? Honestly, I am welcoming the support. I am happy to have the support. Um, yeah.
yeah. Well, how do you want people to find you?
Hey, that's a good question. Well, StephanieBettman.com is up and running, and they can join the email list there, which is the absolute number one way for them to be in touch with me and to know what's coming down the pike as it comes. Um, honestly, that's still getting built to some extent, but they can join the email list. I'm like the whole whatever all the special things I'm going to let people know that's not built yet. But yeah, so StephanieBettman.com is the best way. Um, they will be able to hear the new song Be Big. If they go to the website, they can actually get a free download by joining the email list. They can also go to Spotify and pre-save it. Um, they can wait till March 8th and check it out then. Um, it's going to be Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, all the relevant streaming platforms. Yeah, I guess, yeah, that's, and I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, I'm easy to find.
Yeah.
But yeah, email list is the best way.
Well, Stephanie Bettman, I am so pleased to connect with you at this stage of your career. It's very exciting, and I couldn't be more thrilled. And I wish you the best of luck. Thank you so much for talking with us today.
Thank you. This has been so fun, and it's really cool to reconnect with you, Adam. Thanks for reaching out and letting me know that you were doing this. So I'm glad we got to do it.
It's my pleasure, and hopefully we'll get a chance to talk to you later on down the line.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Okay, great.
Okay.
So thank you. And also, we always thank our audience. Thank you very much for joining us. We do hope you enjoy these interviews. We work very hard on them. If you like them, please, you can say thank you by liking and subscribing to us. If there's someone you'd like to see on the show, or if you'd like to be on the show, just contact me. I'd love to talk to you. Thanks very much, everybody. We'll see you next time.